To prove humans and zombies can start a family, I decided to tie up a relatively clean female zombie. Disaster had struck without warning, turning nearly 90% of humanity into ravenous ghouls. Yet, through a bizarre twist of fate, I managed to awaken a romance cultivation system that completely ignores the apocalypse. It was precisely at that moment that an exceptionally stunning female zombie appeared before my eyes out of nowhere. A sudden realization hit me like a lightning bolt. The romance system never actually specified the species right. Besides, with a zombie this gorgeous, if I just let her walk away, it would be an absolute sin against nature. The moment that thought crossed my mind, I whipped a sturdy rope out of my pocket. I waited for the perfect opening and flicked my wrist, perfectly snaring the beautiful undead girl. She instantly let out a shrill, piercing shriek, but I quickly gagged her with a stray rag. Catching the scent of fresh human flesh so close, the zombie immediately descended into a mindless frenzy. Her small head lunged desperately toward my neck, but I excitedly grabbed her hand instead. In that very instant, the system's notification chimed loudly in my brain. Congratulations, hand-holding mission accomplished. Target Shen Qingwu. Identity college student. Current status zombie. Affection level 0. Reward 100 kilograms of fresh raw meat. First kiss reward zombie virus vaccine. Full cultivation reward gene purification serum. Seeing these insanely generous rewards, my breathing grew heavy with excitement. Just that initial 100 kilograms of meat alone is enough to keep me well fed for 2.5 years. Not to mention those 2 game-changing treasures waiting later. But the most pressing problem right now is, how the hell do I raise Shen Qingwu's affection level? After pondering for a few moments, I reached out and ripped the rag from her mouth. She immediately resumed her feral savage snarling at me, her jagged teeth gnashing together with a terrifying click. It was enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Without wasting a single second, I pulled a slab of raw meat from the system space and shoved it into her mouth. The hissing stopped instantly. She immediately began to voraciously tear into the meat. Witnessing this scene, I couldn't help but heave a frustrated sigh. With a mouth full of such jagged, rotted fangs, it looks like that legendary first kiss reward is officially off the table for the time being. Right at that moment, the neighboring door creaked open, and a man and a woman emerged from the shadows. The woman spoke up instantly. "Hey, handsome! My husband and I haven't eaten a scrap in 2 days. You have so much food, you're even feeding it to zombies. Couldn't you spare a little portion for us?" These two were just a pair of naive newlyweds. The guy was Shen Liang, and the woman was Lin Wanxi. They were the type who lived strictly off takeout, leaving their pantry bone dry when the world ended. In my past life, I fell for their sugary, honeyed words, and like a total moron shared my stash with them. I genuinely believed they would be grateful, but the second I went out to scavenge for supplies, they completely ransacked my entire room. They even deadbolted the door from the outside, leaving me screaming for help while they refused to budge. For ungrateful, backstabbing parasites like them, there's not a chance in hell I'd give them a single bite. However, this Lin Wanxi might actually be of some use to me. The moment that thought sparked, the system interface flickered into existence before my eyes. Name Lin Wanxi, identity married, affection 0. Hand-holding reward, 100 kilograms of fresh produce. First kiss. Reward, a fully furnished 120 square meter luxury apartment. Full cultivation reward, a massive 1,000 square meters. Ultra deluxe mansion. Looking at these insane rewards, the corners of my mouth curled into a devious smirk. We're talking 100 kilograms of fresh fruits and veggies. Even if I'm not starving, proper nutrition is the ultimate priority in this apocalypse. The duo saw me grinning and assumed I had caved to their pathetic begging. Shen Liang didn't hesitate to push his luck. Start us off with 10 pounds of pork and throw in 3 jugs of purified water. I nearly burst out laughing at their sheer audacity. When did I ever say I'd give you anything? Even if my food rots or I feed it to mangy dogs. I'd never waste a single crumb on people like you. Leaving those backstabbers stunned, I simply pushed Shen Qingwu back into my room and slammed the door. Shen Liang stood there, gnashing his teeth, glaring at me with pure hatred. He looked ready to swing, but one look at the zombie beside me kept him in check. Back inside my room, I securely tethered Shen Qingwu to her spot and casually pulled up the system interface. To my absolute shock, Shen Qingwu's affection level had actually spiked by 5 points. My mind instantly flashed back to the late stages of the apocalypse in my past life, where highly intelligent, evolved zombies began to emerge. Is it possible for Shen Qingwu to evolve too, and to think just for a few meager scraps of meat? Her favorability increased by 5 whole points. This is infinitely easier than trying to win over a normal woman. Energized by this, I pulled out a few more slabs of raw meat to feed her, successfully grinding her affection level up to 10. I wanted to keep the momentum going and continue the feeding frenzy, but seeing her little belly bulging and full, I decided to call it a day. After stuffing the rag back into her mouth for safety, I sat down to strategize my next move. 1 month after the initial zombie outbreak, a catastrophic bone-chilling deep freeze will descend upon the world. I only have 20-odd days left to prepare. First priority, secure a massive stockpile of resources. Food and water are the absolute foundation of survival. Next, cold weather fortification. While gathering clothes and medicine shouldn't be too difficult, the real problem is the safe house. And right now, I have absolutely zero leads. This sanctuary doesn't just need to be impenetrable. It has to maintain a stable temperature amidst the lethal frost. Trying to find a pre-existing building that meets every single one of those criteria is practically a mission impossible. As far as I know, not a single place in Binhai City fits that description. But then, in a sudden stroke of genius, a light bulb went off in my head. I remembered Lin Wanxi's first kiss reward. I urgently summoned the system in my mind. System, is the house you're offering as a reward already built? Or does it manifest out of thin air? The system's mechanical voice responded. All reward properties are constructed from scratch. The host may designate any location for the build. And what if I have some very specific requirements for this house? Like say titanium alloy walls, secret escape tunnels, a massive armory, and a medical lab. The system remained silent for several long seconds. The host must provide the architectural blueprints, and please note that communication and medical gear are excluded. The host must procure those independently. Hearing this, I was absolutely over the moon. Does this mean my titanium alloy safe house is actually happening? Just at that moment, a sudden hesitant knocking echoed from the front door. Lin Wanxi was standing there all by herself in the hallway. Seeing that no one was coming to answer, anxiety began to burn through her like a wildfire. Looking down both ends of that pitch-black corridor, who knew when a ravenous zombie might lung out from the dark? Just as she was on the verge of giving up, the heavy door finally creaked open. A look of pure joy flashed across Lin Wanxi's face. But as soon as she spotted the kitchen knife in my grip, her heart tightened in a sudden grip of terror. She scrambled to explain herself immediately. Wait, don't get the wrong idea. I'm completely unarmed, see? I narrowed my eyes, scanning her up and down with cold scrutiny. Lin Wanxi clearly felt the weight of my judgmental gaze. If this had been before the world went to hell, she probably would have slapped me across the face by now. But since she was the one begging for a favor, she could only force a stiff, awkward smile. I was hoping to borrow some food from you. I shot her a look of pure, unadulterated disdain. Trust me, I won't let you come out on the losing end of this deal. If you just lend me some supplies, but I wasn't buying whatever she was selling. You'll what, if you've got nothing else to say? I'm slamming this door shut. Lin Wanxi stood frozen like a statue. What's the matter? Aren't you terrified of a zombie suddenly ambushing you out here? The words had barely left my lips when a blood-curdling zombie roar echoed from the distance. Lin Wanxi's pretty face turned a deathly shade of pale. Driven by sheer survival instinct, she pushed her way inside. Just as I was swinging the door shut, my eyes locked with Shen Liang's from the apartment across the hall. Realizing I had caught him spying, he instantly recoiled like a startled turtle. I let out a soft chuckle and bolted the door. What a legendary coward. His hiding skills are truly world-class. Inside the moment Shen Qinggu spotted Lin Wanxi, she instantly became dangerously aggressive. Lin Wanxi recoiled in pure instinctive terror, letting out a sharp shriek as she scrambled for distance. How can you possibly keep a zombie inside your home? Aren't you absolutely terrified of that thing? I kept my expression stone cold. What's there to fear? It's just a mindless ghoul, nothing more. Those words forced her to instinctively compare me to Shen Liang. She thought if her husband had even half my courage, she wouldn't have to endure this humiliating treatment here. Sinking into that bitter realization, Lin Wanxi sighed. Just tell me, what exactly do I have to do to get that food? A few minutes later, she returned to the living room, her voice trembling with rage as she barked at me. I've done everything you demanded. Where's the food? I leisurely swung the fridge open, deliberately letting her glimpse the piles of fresh meat inside. In that fleeting second, a dark impulse flickered through Lin Wanxi's mind. Should she just knock me unconscious and take it all? But ultimately, her rational side managed to win out. In truth, I had been tracking her every movement. The fact that Lin Wanxi didn't actually strike honestly left me feeling a little disappointed. I was just 1 second away from justifiable self-defense. I pulled out roughly a pound of pork and carelessly tossed it onto the floor in front of her. Her face twisted into a scowl as she stared at the meat. You're only giving me this measly amount. This is a goddamn fortune right now. I was originally planning to give you half that. Lin Wanxi had absolutely no concept of how priceless a single pound of meat is in this apocalypse. She only remembered how when Shen Liang married her, the dowry alone was 380,000, with her name proudly etched onto the property deed. Lin Wanxi took a sharp deep breath and finally stooped down to retrieve the pork from the floor before storming out with a frigid, stony expression. Seeing her reduced to such a pathetic state, I didn't feel anger, I felt enlightened. The more miserable she becomes, the more intense the thrill of my revenge grows. Next, I gleefully pulled up the system interface. The house and the produce were both marked as ready to claim. Sure, a 100 square meter house is a bit cramped, but I have a strategy to fix that. As long as I can track down another woman with a status similar to Lin Wanxi's, I can expand and upgrade that base indefinitely. Now, the only remaining headache is obtaining the professional blueprint for the safe house. Deep within the Binhai University campus, there might be survivors from the architecture department. Looks like I'll have to make a dangerous trip outside. Early the next morning, I began my systematic loot sweep. My first target, Unit 504, right across the hall. I jammed a wire into the keyhole and started picking, cracking the lock effortlessly in mere seconds. The moment I stepped inside the unit, a wet, rhythmic chewing sound echoed from the bedroom. Creeping forward, I nudged the bedroom door open, only to find a withered, white-haired old man viciously feasting on a mangled corpse upon the bed. Absolutely repulsive, I muttered under my breath, swinging my cleaver at the ghoul with full force. To my surprise, the blow barely dealt any critical damage, and instead it only served to drive him into a blind fury. He lunged at me, claws out and teeth gnashing wildly. I delivered a brutal kick square to his chest, sending the undead senior flying across the room. I immediately rushed in to deliver several finishing blows, until he finally stopped twitching for good. When I looked down, the blade was already badly chipped. At the end of the day, it's just a kitchen knife. Great for slicing meat, but failing miserably against the density of zombie bone. I definitely need to find a much more reliable weapon. As the clock neared high noon, I had finished sweeping all 6 rooms. On the 5th floor, I neutralized 3 zombies in total, scavenging a case of malt juice, some gas canisters, an assortment of meds, and a tub of protein powder. While the haul was substantial, my trusted kitchen cleaver was officially trashed. Luckily, I stumbled upon a solid baseball bat. One test swing told me it was the perfect upgrade. Meanwhile, Lin Wanxi and Shen Liang watched through the peephole, witnessing my entire zombie slaying spree from start to finish. My ruthless efficiency left them trembling and swallowing hard, secretly thanking their lucky stars they hadn't crossed me earlier. Otherwise, they'd be nothing but cold corpses by now. Only after they heard my door click shut did the cowardly pair dare to step out into the hallway. They began scouring every room I'd just cleared, desperately hoping to find some scrap of food I'd overlooked. Unfortunately for them, my sweep was flawless. Those 2 bottom feeders didn't find so much as a single crumb. Damn it, is that bastard a reincarnation of a locust? He didn't leave a single edible scrap behind. Wait, I think I found a steak. Never mind, it's covered in thick mold. Shen Liang's eyes darted toward his wife. Honey, maybe you should go ask him for more food. Lin Wanxi looked completely reluctant. We just ate yesterday. I'm not even that hungry yet. Can't we just skip it for now? You aren't hungry now, but you will be eventually. Do we really have to wait until he's fed everything to that zombie before you're willing to go and ask? Seeing her hesitation, Shen Liang immediately grabbed her hand with fake sincerity. Honey, I want us to survive this together. I know the rescue team will find us soon. Gazing into her husband's pleading eyes, Lin Wanxi grit her teeth. Fine, I'll go. The moment Lin Wanxi stepped through my door, she was hit by an incredibly tantalizing aroma. Right then, I stepped into the kitchen and emerged shortly after carrying a rice cooker. Inside was a steaming full pot of stewed potatoes and meat. I cracked open a bottle of chilled malt juice and made myself comfortable on the sofa to dig in. The scent was so intoxicating that Lin Wanxi kept swallowing hard. But since I hadn't acknowledged her, she could only stand there awkwardly, like a statue. I took a few bites before acting as if I'd just noticed her. Oh, I almost forgot you were there. I stood up, grabbed a spare plate, and scooped a generous portion of meat onto it. Lin Wanxi naturally assumed it was for her. But just as she joyfully reached out to take the plate, I bypassed her completely and walked toward the sofa. After ripping the gag out of Shen Qingwu's mouth, she immediately buried her face in the dish and began devouring the meal like a wild animal. Lin Wanxi stood there, her face flushed with pure embarrassment. She gave a dry cough to awkwardly change the subject. So, you cleared out the entire 5th floor today? Yeah, I'm planning to leave soon, just stocking up before I move out. Lin Wanxi's eyes widened in sheer disbelief. What, you're leaving? The outside world is crawling with those monsters. Where could you possibly go? I let out a cryptic smirk but didn't answer. Why? What can't bear to see me go? Upon hearing those words, Lin Wanxi's face flushed with rage. In your dreams, jerk. I hope you rot out there in the wasteland. But despite her venomous outbursts, a flicker of genuine panic was hidden in her eyes. If I vanished with every last scrap of food, she and Shen Liang would be left to starve to death. Spit it out. What are you really here for? I want to trade for more food. I couldn't help but let out a mocking sneer. I knew Lin Wanxi would come crawling back, but I didn't expect her to be this thick-skinned. Fast forward and 4 days have already passed. I flipped this entire building completely upside down, and during these past few days, Shen Qingwu's appetite has become progressively terrifying. She started off satisfied with half a pound of meat, but now even 2.5 pounds barely hits the spot. Yet her stomach shows absolutely no signs of bloating. If her affection level weren't steadily climbing, I would have seriously considered cutting her off. Ignoring whether she could actually comprehend me, I started casually making threats. I've been feeding you for 6 straight days. If you still harbor thoughts of taking a bite out of me, I'll dump you here to fend for yourself. With that, I yanked the gag from her mouth. She didn't let out a feral shriek like she used to. Instead, she just sat there with her mouth open for a refill. If you dare try to bite me, no more food for you, period. Got that through your head? Since you're staying silent, I'll take that as your official agreement. I tentatively reached my hand toward Shen Qingwu, but she immediately snapped her jaws trying to taste my arm. No, I barked at the top of my lungs. The roar startled her, causing her to freeze mid-motion, as she tilted her head staring at me in confusion. I cautiously extended my hand once again, but Shen Qingwu tried to sink her teeth in regardless. After about a dozen rounds of this psychological tug-of-war, just as I was on the brink of giving up, she finally refrained from snapping her jaws. Instead, she stared fixedly at my face, seemingly trying to decipher my expression to determine if I was actually edible or not. A surge of pure adrenaline and joy hit me. I looked her in the eyes and slowly shook my head. Shen Qingwu seemed to grasp my intention perfectly. She actually refrained from snapping her jaws. Buzzing with excitement, I offered her another slab of meat and gave her a firm, encouraging nod. This time, she dove straight into her meal. I tested her several more times after that, and she refused to eat until she received my signal. To verify if her restraint was merely due to being tied up and suppressed, I decided to escalate the experiment. I carefully unraveled the ropes binding her and placed a fresh platter of meat on the coffee table. Shen Qingwu stood up with a slight wobble, slowly lumbering toward me. She glanced at the feast on the table, then shot a sideways look at me. Then she actually raised a finger toward the meat. My heart was absolutely pounding with joy. I gave her a small nod. Only then did Shen Qingwu snatch up the plate and begin to voraciously devour the contents. I have to admit, her table manners are still pretty gruesome. But the real victory here is that, with an affection level of only 40, she's already suppressed her instinct to kill me. If I can actually grind that favorability to 100, doesn't that mean I'll have a completely loyal zombie subordinate? This isn't just some romance system. It's a straight-up master and servant training sim. Meanwhile, Shen Liang had spent the last few days on pins and needles. The news of my imminent departure had reached his ears. Whether it was for the stockpile of food or pure revenge, he had no intention of letting me leave this place alive. But he knew he stood zero chance on his own. After all, I'm a savage who can solo zombies without breaking a sweat. So Shen Liang turned his manipulative gaze back to his wife. Honey, we can't let that punk next door just walk away. He's not taking that mountain of food with him. Go over there one more time to borrow some supplies. And once he's asleep, unlock the door to let me in. We'll end him together and take everything. Driven by a twisted sense of guilt, Lin Wanxi found herself unable to refuse his demands. She eventually gave a slow, hesitant nod. Shen Liang's face lit up with murderous glee. Perfect. The moment night falls, we strike. I'm going to get everything ready. Staring at Shen Liang's retreating back, Lin Wanxi let out a hollow, bitter laugh. He didn't even bother asking for a detailed plan. It seems he already knew exactly what was going down. On the other side, since I planned to bail early tomorrow, I was getting ready to hit the sack. But the moment I lay down, a rhythmic knocking echoed. I swung the door open, a playful smirk dancing on my lips. Hungry again so soon? Hearing my taunt, Lin Wanxi cursed me, silently wishing she could bury her fist in my face. Yet she suppressed her rage, even managing to force a seductive, sultry expression. I'm craving more than just food. Step inside, I said, stepping aside to clear the path. The instant Lin Wanxi brushed past me, I raised my hand and delivered a sharp, stinging slap. The firm, jelly-like recoil was honestly impressive. Lin Wanxi clutched her backside, glaring at me with eyes full of pure venom. You better give me an extra pack of biscuits for that. Seeing her seething with rage but too afraid to speak up made me burst into a fit of arrogant laughter. Man, does it feel this good to be the villain. I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for her. Thinking back to how they betrayed me in my past life, this is just karma coming home to roost. Lin Wanxi lowered her head, her eyes burning with a murderous fire. Just wait until tonight. Let's see if you're still laughing then. Several hours later, Lin Wanxi emerged trembling as she leaned against the wall. It was barely a dozen steps from the bedroom to the door. Yet it took her several grueling minutes to cross. The moment she creaked the door open, Shen Liang slipped inside like a shadow. Well, is the bastard finally asleep? Out cold. Perfect. Let's go end him right now. With that, Shen Liang tightened his grip on his sharpened fruit knife. But he hadn't even taken 5 steps before he spotted a dark silhouette looming in the bedroom doorway. The sight nearly scared the soul right out of Shen Liang's body. You said he was asleep. Who the hell is that? Lin Wanxi was equally paralyzed with terror, but she realized something was horribly wrong immediately. That's the zombie that jerk was keeping. How did it break free from its restraints? Hubby, what do we do now? Maybe we should just bail for now. Inside, Shen Liang's mind was a chaotic battlefield of indecision. He was absolutely deathly afraid of the undead, but he knew if he missed tonight, his chance was gone forever. Besides, Shen Qingwu looked completely dazed and vacant, giving Shen Liang the dangerous delusion that he could actually take her on himself. But just to play it safe, he whispered to his wife, Honey, you go and draw its attention. I'll sneak up and take it from behind. Lin Wanxi's entire body shuddered with pure terror. Don't worry, I won't let it lay a finger on you. Shen Liang gave her his word, while secretly preparing to sell out his wife the very second things went south. But Lin Wanxi wasn't about to play the sacrificial lamb. She wasn't nearly in love enough to die for him. Suddenly, my impatient voice drifted from the bedroom. Seriously, how much longer are you two going to gossip? At the sound of my voice, Shen Liang and Lin Wanxi felt their hearts leap into their throats. You you weren't actually asleep. With you two making this much of a racket, I'd have to be dead not to wake up. Seeing the nonchalant, casual smirk plastered on my face, Lin Wanxi's face turned ghostly pale. Hubby, let the zombie deal with him. Let's get out of here. Oh, you mean her? Under their wide-eyed, disbelieving stares, I reached out and casually ruffled Shen Qinggu's hair. Instead of tearing my throat out, she stood there as docile as a pet letting me pet her. That sight nearly made the two of them wet themselves. This is impossible. It's bad enough she doesn't look like a rotting corpse. But how the hell is her behavior? Completely different from every other zombie out there. Shen Liang suddenly shoved Lin Wanxi straight toward me and bolted for the exit without looking back. He didn't get far before I caught up and floored him with one swing. Wait! Stop, I have something to say. Please, I'm begging you, don't kill me. But I wasn't in the mood for his pathetic excuses, so I finished him off with ruthless efficiency. Lin Wanxi watched the scene unfold, her soul practically leaving her body. This was all his idea. He was the one who wanted to hurt you. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Please, I'm begging you, forgive me. I swear on my life, I'll serve you like a loyal slave from now on. Lin Wanxi was still clinging to a sliver of hope, gambling on the idea that I'd be too soft to end her. Instead, I spoke with ice in my veins. You aren't sorry. You're just terrified because you're about to die. At that moment, Shen Qingwu drifted over, pointing a pale finger at the two fresh corpses on the floor. I shook my head firmly. No way. These are already spoiled. Early the next morning, I gathered up Shen Qingwu and roared away from the apartment on my motorcycle. It's worth mentioning that the thunderous rumble of the engine along the way acted like a dinner bell for countless zombies. However, those sluggish, brain-dead freaks couldn't even keep pace, leaving them to stare helplessly as I vanished into the distance toward Binhai University. To ditch the massive horde of undead trailing behind me, I was about to duck into a random building for cover when I suddenly heard someone shouting, "Over here!" After a split second of hesitation, I ditched the bike and sprinted toward the voice. The guy who called out saw me approaching and hastily cleared a path through the window. I braced one hand against the frame and vaulted inside with a slick, effortless leap. But Shen Qinggu's body was too stiff to climb. She just stood there, staring blankly from outside. A few eager male students rushed forward to help her up, but I shoved them aside immediately. Back off. I've got this. With that, I leaned out the window, hooked my arms under Shen Qinggu's armpits, and hoisted her inside without breaking a sweat. Just then, some guy who looked like a pampered rich brat spoke up. You must be the rescue team my dad sent for us, right? This clown was named Gu Chengyu. Leveraging his status as the mayor's spoiled son, he'd been conning everyone with the lies about a rescue mission. That little charade made him the self-appointed leader of these survivors. I completely ignored his outstretched hand. Who the hell are you? Do I even know you? Gu Chengyu's expression soured instantly. He only said that to flex his imaginary power. And I didn't give him a shred of face. Determined to salvage his bruised ego, he immediately began to flex his authority. So, in other words, you're just another survivor like the rest of us. In that case, you'd better start following our rules. One of his lackeys saw the opening and lunged forward to snatch my backpack. I slapped his hand away and stepped back. What do you think you're doing? Gu Chengyu put on a display of self-righteousness. For the sake of everyone's survival, I'm going to need you to hand over your supplies. We distribute everything fairly here. I let out a cold snort. Whether you lot live or rot doesn't mean a damn thing to me. As soon as those words left my mouth, Gu Chengyu intentionally raised his voice so every survivor in the room could hear. If everyone was as selfish as you, we'd all be dead from starvation by now. Everything we do here is to ensure our resources are utilized rationally. I couldn't stand his pathetic preaching any longer and cut him off mid-sentence. Your lives are none of my business, and I have zero interest in joining your little group. So no, I'm not handing over a single scrap. Gu Chengyu gave a chilling, smug smile and pointed a finger toward the window. Well then, I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave immediately. Outside that very window was the horde I'd just lured, all of them clawing at the glass and drooling in a frenzy. Of course I wasn't about to walk out into that. Besides, I hadn't even achieved my goal for coming here yet. There are plenty of classrooms in this building. I'll stay for a few days and leave on my own terms. Faced with a total outsider like me, the students naturally sided with Gu Chengyu's narrative. They swarmed around me, fueled by indignant rage. Who do you think you are talking to, young Master Gu, like that? If we hadn't saved your skin just now, you'd be zombie food. Exactly, this is a school. What right does an outsider have to occupy our space? I couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. Trying to use logic and reason during the apocalypse. And what if I decide to stay by force? Do you pampered greenhouse flowers who have never seen blood really think you have the guts to throw hands with someone who crawled his way out of a mountain of corpses? Just as the tension reached its absolute breaking point, a woman in a long dress with an elegant aura